I saw my wife laughing with another man at my birthday party, and you can't imagine what I did. I'm Ethan. 32 years old. I always thought birthdays were about reminding you who truly mattered. The friends, the family, the people who show up and make you feel seen. But that night, I felt completely invisible. It was my birthday, and our house was packed with people. Some were old friends I hadn't seen in ages, others were acquaintances I barely knew. Laughter filled the air, drinks were flowing, and everyone seemed to be celebrating. But in the middle of all that, acting as though it wasn't even my special night, was my wife, Sophia, laughing with another guy. Apparently, he was someone from her office, tall, smug, and a little too familiar for someone she claimed was just a friend. I watched them from across the room, noticing how her hand kept drifting to his arm, how she leaned in close every time she laughed. Her voice, a little too high and breathy, almost like she was trying too hard. She hadn't even noticed me watching. Honestly, she didn't seem to care. He topped off her drink, and she giggled, adjusting her neckline like that mattered more than the reason we were even there. I tried to smile, tried to pretend it didn't bother me. The room was full, college friends, coworkers, even my parents stuck around for a while. But it didn't matter. I wasn't really there. I was just a background character in my own celebration, watching my wife flirt with a guy I'd never seen before that night. Every time someone slapped me on the back and said, "Happy birthday, man," I forced a smile, all the while knowing that my own wife hadn't even wished me a happy birthday privately. And the worst part? Her little sister was watching it all. Mia. 19 months younger than Sophia, quieter, sharper, and always paying attention, stood by the drink table, a half-empty glass of white wine in her hand, her eyes locked on the same scene I couldn't stop watching. She didn't say anything at first, just observing Sophia laugh too loudly and lean too close. Then, after what felt like an eternity, she stepped up beside me and whispered, "You okay? Low, private?" I nodded without meeting her gaze. "It's my birthday, right? What's there to be upset about?" She followed my eyes, watching as Sophia rested her hand on the guy's chest and whispered something in his ear. "You know, Mia," said softly, "she's been acting like this for months, like you're an afterthought." I glanced at her. "You noticed that too?" Mia took a sip of her wine. "She's my sister, but that doesn't mean I'm going to defend her when she's being a terrible partner." I stared at her. That kind of honesty didn't just appear out of nowhere. Not in a crowded party with music blaring and drinks flowing. That kind of honesty builds up quietly, over weeks, months even, until it finds the right moment to break free. Then, in a voice barely audible over the music, she leaned in again. "You want a real gift tonight? One she'll never see coming." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I just looked her in the eyes, took her hand, and led her upstairs. She followed me without a word, without hesitation. We moved quickly, quietly, past the noise of the party below, the bedroom door clicking shut behind us. And for the first time that night, I could finally hear my own breath. Mia turned to face me. She wasn't shaking, she wasn't second-guessing. She just stood there, calm, like she'd already accepted what was about to happen. "You sure?" she asked. I stepped closer, cupping her face with a hand that used to reach for Sophia without a second thought. Sophia disappeared on my birthday. But Mia showed up, and that was all it took. She kissed me first, slowly at first, then with hunger, like she was done holding back. She pushed me onto the bed, her knees straddling me, her hands finding the spots where Sophia had stopped caring. She made noise, deliberate, raw, climbing higher, no shame, no hesitation. The party downstairs rumbled on, until it didn't. Suddenly, the house went silent. People were listening. We both knew it. But Mia didn't stop. She leaned into my ear, moaning my name loud enough to drown out the music below. Then she got louder, and even the walls couldn't keep the truth from echoing through the house. Someone muttered, "That's not his wife." A woman, one of Sophia's friends, whispered, amused, "No, that's her sister." And just like that, he finally got a real present. We didn't stop. Not when the music cut off. Not when the laughter faded. Not when we heard footsteps creeping up the stairs. We finished what Sophia had started. Not out of revenge, but out of justice. The quiet kind, the kind you don't need to shout. The kind that screams itself through the walls. When we finally went back downstairs, Sophia was gone. The air felt different. Not just quiet, loaded. Eyes followed us as we entered. Conversations froze in mid-sentence. The energy that had once been filled with party music now hummed with something far more charged. A silence thick with judgment, realization, and unasked questions. People stood in little clusters, drinks abandoned in their hands, unsure whether to smile, speak, or pretend they hadn't heard everything they clearly had. I saw some faces look away, embarrassed, amused, or impressed, but not a single one of them looked surprised. Mia walked next to me, calm as always, her posture proud, chin slightly raised, like she didn't regret a thing. And she didn't need to. She had nothing to be ashamed of. Sophia had thrown away any moral high ground the moment she left on my birthday with a man I didn't know and laughter that wasn't meant for me. I scanned the room. The guy she'd been flirting with was gone. And so was she. It didn't take long for the whispers to reach me. She left with that guy right before everything started upstairs. Yeah, I saw them head out the side door, holding hands. They didn't even try to hide it. That was the story now. Not just that Sophia crossed the line in front of everyone, but that she did it so openly no one could pretend they didn't know, not even her own friends. And those same friends? They looked at me not with pity, but with something closer to quiet approval. One of them, Emma, I think, came up to me with an awkward half-smile. "Hey, happy birthday again." I nodded. "Thanks." She hesitated, then leaned in. Honestly, she had it coming. The way she acted tonight, it's been a long time coming. Her words stuck with me longer than I expected. I didn't throw anyone out. I didn't announce what had just happened upstairs. I didn't gloat, didn't laugh, didn't explain. I just grabbed another drink, raised it slightly in a toast to whoever was still watching, and said, "Thanks for coming out, everyone." Shortly after, the crowd began to break up. One by one, people made their way to the door, murmuring goodbyes, offering quick hugs or handshakes, some with wide eyes, some with smirks. No one asked about Sophia. No one asked where she went. By the time the house was empty, only Mia and I remained. We stood in the middle of the living room, the last balloons floating near the ceiling, the final song still playing quietly in the background. She looked at me and said, "That wasn't about revenge, you know." I raised an eyebrow. "No?" She shook her head. "It was about reminding her that she's not untouchable, that actions have consequences. You deserve to be seen. And she refused to see you, so I did." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I walked her to the guest room, the one she used to crash in when she visited, back when things between us were still good. As she walked inside, she paused and turned back to say, "And just so you know, that wasn't a one-time thing. Not for me." Then she closed the door behind her. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because I regretted anything, I didn't, but because my mind was finally catching up with how far things had really gone. Sophia hadn't just flirted with some guy at my birthday. She'd made her intentions clear to everyone in that house, then disappeared with him like I wasn't even there. She didn't know what had happened upstairs with her sister, but everyone else did, and I knew it was only a matter of time before that silence reached her. It didn't take long. The next morning, I woke up to a string of texts from Sophia. "Where are you? Call me. What the hell happened last night?" And finally, "Did you really hook up with Mia?" I didn't respond right away. I got up, made some coffee, and walked into the guest room where Mia was already dressed, scrolling through her phone, legs crossed as though nothing was out of the ordinary. She looked up and smiled. "Morning." "She knows," I said matter-of-factly. Mia shrugged. "I figured." "What do I say?" I asked. She stood up, walked over, kissed me on the cheek, and said nothing. Let her figure it out the same way you had to. I liked that answer. Still, I wasn't about to let the full truth stay hidden forever. Sophia needed to know exactly what it felt like when someone you trusted made noise behind closed doors loud enough for the world to hear. So, I sent her a single video. Not of us, no visuals, just audio. A clip from a guest's phone. Someone downstairs had recorded the moment everything went quiet, followed by the moans echoing through the ceiling, then a voice whispering, "That's not his wife. That's her sister." I attached the audio to a text with a simple caption. "Thanks for the birthday memory." My toast was upstairs. Then I set my phone down and didn't touch it for hours. Sophia never replied. Maybe she was too shocked. Maybe too angry. Or maybe, for the first time, she realized that the game she'd been playing had cost her more than just a night of attention. It had cost her the one person who had always fought for her, even in the face of her own sister. Mia stayed for breakfast, then lunch, then dinner, and by the end of the weekend, neither of us was pretending it was just temporary anymore. For the first time in months, the house felt peaceful. No tension in the walls. No waiting for a door to slam or a phone to buzz with some lie wrapped in emojis and late-night excuses. Just silence. The good kind. The kind that comes after the noise clears and the pretending ends. I didn't hear from Sophia the day after the audio made its rounds in the family group chat. Someone, probably my cousin Ryan, who loved stirring the pot, had shared the clip with no commentary. Just the moans, the escalating intensity, and the whispers from the guests catching on. No video, just the unmistakable sound of a woman screaming my name, and the unmistakable voice of Sophia's own sister. That was all it took. The reactions started slow. One by one, I got texts from people who'd been there. Some pretending they hadn't heard, some admitting they had. A few congratulated me without saying it outright. My buddy Jake just sent a thumbs-up emoji and the words, "Guess that wasn't the cake screaming." Another round of party gossip, man. Legendary ending. I didn't respond to most of the messages. I wasn't proud of it, but I wasn't ashamed either. I hadn't lied, I hadn't cheated, and I hadn't left with anyone during the celebration. I just gave betrayal a brutal, undeniable response. Apparently, a few people had been waiting for someone to finally put Sophia in her place. By Monday, the fallout began. Sophia showed up at the house, not with tears, not with apologies, but with pure rage. I saw her car pull up from the upstairs window. She slammed the door shut and marched to the front step like she still owned the place, like she still had control over what was inside. When she knocked, it wasn't a polite knock, it was a demand. I wasn't in the mood for a scene, so I opened the door. "You're disgusting," she said. No hello, no pause, just an accusation meant to make me flinch. I didn't. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You didn't think I was disgusting when you were whispering in another man's ear at my birthday." "That was a joke," she snapped back. "You overreacted." I corrected her calmly. "You walked out of your husband's birthday party with another man." "I didn't overreact, I just reacted." She scoffed, flicked her hair behind her ear, and stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Her eyes scanned the room, looking for something. "Where's Mia?" she asked. "Out," I replied. "And even if she wasn't, she wouldn't be hiding from you. You seduced her. She's a grown woman. She made her choice," I said flatly. "She's my sister. She's not your alibi," I shot back. "And she's not your scapegoat either." Sophia started pacing, her anger practically boiling over. "You embarrassed me in front of everyone." I smiled, almost amused. "Did I? Or did you embarrass yourself when you practically climbed all over some guy in front of your family, your friends, and your husband, and thought no one would call you out on it?" She froze, her jaw clenched tight, and for a second I saw it, regret. Not for what she did, but for being caught, for losing control. Sophia didn't mourn the people she hurt. She mourned the power she lost. She didn't love being loved. She loved being desired. And when that wasn't guaranteed anymore, she reached for whoever was closest. Finally, she said, Mia doesn't love you. She just wants to hurt me. No, I replied. She just stopped defending you. That's not the same. Sophia's shoulders drooped, and a silence hung between us. So that's it? Yeah, I said. That's it. She glanced around once more, then gave a quiet, almost resigned nod. Okay, you win. There was never a game, I responded. Just a line, and you crossed it. When she left, she didn't slam the door. There was no yelling, just a quiet exit, stepping into the sunlight like someone who just realized they were no longer the center of their own story, the one they thought they controlled. Later that afternoon, when Mia came back, she found me in the kitchen, washing dishes like nothing had happened. She dropped her bag and leaned against the doorframe. She come by? Yeah. What did she say? I turned off the faucet and dried my hands. That I won. Mia chuckled softly. She always saw relationships as battles, like someone had to come out on top. She was never really on my side, I said. Only her own. Mia stepped closer, wrapping her arms around my waist. I'm not her, she whispered. I know. We stayed like that for a while, holding on to the quiet between us, stretching it out without the need to fill the silence. There was no act, no need to explain ourselves to anyone. We simply were. And somehow, that felt more real than any wedding vow I'd ever heard. That evening, I received one last message in the family group chat. It was from Sophia's aunt, a quiet woman who hardly ever spoke during holidays and usually stayed away from drama. The message read, Some people spend years hiding who they really are. I'm just glad we finally turned up the volume enough to hear it. Mia read it over my shoulder and laughed. You think they'll ever see her the same way? Does it matter? I replied. No, she said, pulling me toward the couch. Not anymore. By the end of the week, things had mostly quieted down. Sophia didn't call. No more texts. No surprise visits, no late-night voicemails, no desperate attempts to justify what everyone had already seen and heard through the bedroom ceiling. She faded into silence, not because she was ashamed, but because she finally realized she no longer had an audience to applaud her act. Without that applause, Sophia had nothing left to hold on to. Mia stayed, not because she needed to escape the drama, not out of guilt, and certainly not to play the hero. She stayed because she wanted to. She fit into this life more than Sophia ever did. Not just in the house, but in the life we were building the moment the lies ended, and the truth rang out through the party. She made breakfast with her hair in a messy bun, wearing a sarcastic grin that made mornings feel lighter. She chatted on the phone with friends like nothing had shattered in her life, even though she'd walked through her sister's betrayal like someone stepping barefoot over broken glass without flinching. And I grew to love her more every day for it. One evening, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, hidden among some of Sophia's forgotten things, old mail, receipts, and a half-used bottle of perfume, was the birthday card I'd never received. Still sealed. The envelope said, To my favorite person, written in handwriting I used to recognize better than my own. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Whatever apology or empty sweetness she had written inside didn't matter anymore. She'd written it while thinking about another man, planning her escape from a party that wasn't even about her. I handed it to Mia, who glanced at the outside then asked, Want me to burn it for you? I nodded, and we threw it into the fireplace. No ceremony. Just closure. What spread after that night wasn't shame. It wasn't regret. It was freedom. I stopped thinking about who knew what, who was behind closed doors, or who had taken sides. Because none of it changed what had already happened. You can't undo a moan that loud. You can't unhear someone scream a name that isn't yours. Sophia may have spent years crafting her image, but it only took one moment of raw, honest sound to shatter it completely. A few weeks later, we attended a birthday dinner for my brother. It was a small gathering, just close family. Sophia didn't show up, even though she was technically still invited, but her absence didn't feel heavy. It was a relief. The people who mattered had already made their silence known. No one asked about her. No one defended her. At one point during the meal, my cousin leaned over and whispered, "You doing okay?" I smiled. "Better than I've been in years." He grinned and raised his glass. "Loud endings make room for better beginnings." I clinked my glass with his and nodded. He wasn't wrong. Mia, sitting next to me, held my hand under the table as if it was the most natural thing in the world. She didn't need to say a word, her presence spoke volumes. At the end of the night, when my mom hugged her goodbye, I paid close attention. She squeezed Mia's hand, looked her straight in the eye and said, "You're exactly what he needed." "Thank you." That's when I realized this wasn't just a phase. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was real. Eventually, Sophia tried again, but not through me. She sent Mia a long message, apologizing, begging, trying to remind her of sisterhood and all the history between them. Mia showed me the message. She read it once, then deleted it. "She only wants what she lost, not what she deserves," she said. And with that, the last link between them was gone. It wasn't about rivalry, nor was it about taking someone away. It was about standing up to someone who'd spent years believing the world would bend to her will if she smiled just right. Sophia never imagined she'd be left behind, not by her husband, and certainly not by her sister. But the truth is, people get tired. People stop defending those who care about no one but themselves. Mia moved in for good not long after. She brought her books, her plants, her warmth. She painted the guest room, the one she used to stay in, and turned it into an office. She filled the walls with her own art, not Sophia's photos. In the kitchen, she started labeling jars, cooking Sunday dinners, and organizing shelves Sophia had never bothered to touch. The house began to feel different, not haunted, not broken, but whole. Some might call what we did cruel, but those people have never stood at their own birthday party and watched the person they loved flirt with a stranger, as if they were invisible. They've never heard their own name echo from someone else's lips in the most honest sound the walls have ever carried. They've never been face to face with betrayal and chosen not to scream, not to beg, but to let the truth make its way through every lie, every smile that came before. So yes, she laughed with another man on the night she was supposed to celebrate me. So, I let her sister scream my name loud enough for the whole party to stop and listen. And now, I finally have peace. If you stuck with this story to the end, let me know in the comments. Was it justice, or did I go too far? Hit like if you believe loyalty is louder than lies. Subscribe for more stories like this. And remember, sometimes the quietest revenge is the one that doesn't need to be explained, just heard.